Hello, fabulous world. Welcome back to Mrs. Leefatt Teach. Today we are rounding decimals. And I already wrote some numbers on my place value chart. I started with I have my tens place, my ones place, my decimal place, my tenths place, and my hundredths place. And I have some numbers here. 12 and 36 hundredths, 12 and 87 hundredths, 11 and 13 hundredths, 12 and 5 tenths, 17 and 8 hundredths. And remember, when we are rounding decimals, it is the same as rounding whole numbers. Okay, and I want you to remember a little trick, okay? And I wrote it down. 4 or less, let it rest. So you leave the number alone. Any number between 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. When you're rounding, you're gonna leave those numbers alone. And we're gonna just hold on to that thought because we're gonna practice that. And 5 or more, raise the score. If the number is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, your number that you're rounding is going to go up, all right, by one number. Okay, so here we go. We're going to practice. All right, let's practice. Let's start with 12.36. So 12 and 36 hundredths. Okay, so the number I want to round to my nearest whole number. So I'm going to look at my 2. Okay, my 2 in the ones place. That's the number that I want to round. I'm going to circle that number so we know that's the number we want to round. And I'm going to go next door. Okay, I'm going to go next door and I'm going to look at the number that's next to the right of the 2. All right, let's draw an arrow so we can see what it is. That is the number 3. Now think to yourself, is 3 4 or less, or is it 5 or more? That's right, it's 4 or less. So that means we're gonna let the 2 rest. So we are just leaving it there. We're not gonna touch it. And that's where we're going to round to our whole number, and that's going to be 12. So 12.36 or 12 and 36 hundredths is going to round to 12. It stays the same. All right. So let's practice with the next number. 12 and 87 hundredths. So let's write that down. I'm going to write it over here. 12 and 87 hundredths. Okay, so once again, I'm going to round to my nearest whole number. I'm going to circle the 2 because that's the number that I want to round. And now I look to the right of the number. That's going to tell me if my 2 stays the same, if it rests, or is it going to soar if it goes up by one number, okay? So, is this 8 4 or less, or is it 5 or more? That's right, it's 5 or more. You are so smart. So, I am going to move that 2, I'm going to move it up to 3, and my whole number is going to be 13. So let's circle the numbers that we have. We have 12 and 36 hundredths, round down to 12, and 12 and 87 hundredths rounds up to 13. Okay? All right. So we are going to listen to the other tune, and I hope this is going to help you to remember how to round. Ready? Okay. 0 to 4, just ignore. 5 and above, give it a shove. Flex your muscle like a hero. Digits to the right, turn to 0. How's that sound? I like it too. And don't forget the other one. 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, raise the score. And we're going to practice using the rest of these numbers on the place value chart. So we have 11 and 13 hundredths. We are going to circle the 1 that's in this ones place because that's the number that I want to round. And I'm going to look over here. Hello, number 1. Oh, you are 4 or less. So I'm just going to let 11 rest. Okay? So I'm not going to do anything with that 1. I'm just going to leave it alone. And my number 11 and 13 hundredths round to 11. It just stays the same. The 1 stays the same. Let's look at 12 and 5 tenths. Okay, so 12 and 5 tenths. All right, so the 2, we're going to look at the 2. And let's circle the 2 because that's the number we want to round. We're going to go to the right of the decimal point. I see the number 5. What did the 5 say? Okay. 5 or more, raise the score. That's right. So the 2 right here is going up to 13. So 12 and 5 tenths rounds up to 13. Okay, we have one more number on our place value chart, 17 and 8 hundredths. So we're going to squeeze it over here. 17 and 8 hundredths. I'm going to look to my 7 because I want to round to the nearest whole number. And my 7 is going to look over to the right, the digit after the decimal. Okay? And in that tens place is 0. Is that 4 or less or 5 or more? That's right. It's 4 or less. And that means the 7 rest is staying there, not going anywhere. So 17 and 8 hundredths is rounded down to 17. It just stays. It just rests. Okay? So that's how we round decimals. Alright, well, today we were rounding decimals. Remember, when you round decimals, you have to look at your number that you are rounding, and in this case, it's the 2 and 12 and 36 hundredths, and we look to the right of the decimal, and the right, it says 3, and you remember, 4 or less, let it rest. So we left the 12 alone, all right? And in this case, 12 and 87 hundredths, when we looked at the right, it's an 8 and 5 or more raised the score. And that's when our whole number went up by 1 and then 1 digit, and then 12 went up to 13. So remember that the next time that you are rounding decimals. All right, fabulous world. Thank you for joining me today. I had a wonderful time with you. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Goodbye.